recently, Elizabeth Warren, she actually paid a big donor to bankroll the DNC voter database that she purchased, and so she got money from a big donor to basically cover her for this expense, despite the fact that she has refused to take part in any kind of fundraising, So like for apparently party fundraisers or just regular fundraiser for her campaign. Apparently she still does the party fundraiser. I think that's mentioned in this article here, but apparently she's refused to do fundraisers for her own campaign, and but that's not something that's being shown in this case here. So she's apparently gone back on that promise here. So let's check out this article here. It's from BuzzFeed News. It says Elizabeth Warren's campaign turned to a big donor to pay for the DNC voter database despite her fundraising pledge. A campaign aide said Warren didn't solicit the money herself and that there was no violation of her promise to abstain from pay for access fundraising. So this article is written by Ruby Kramer, BuzzFeed News reporter, was from July 15th. So let's check out the body of the article here. Okay, let's see. Elizabeth Warren relied on a multi-million-dollar Democratic donor to cover the cost of an expensive voter database, a move that risks putting her campaign at odds with the spirit, if not the letter, of the pledge she made to abstain from, quote, big money, end quote, fundraising. In February, 2 months into her presidential campaign, Warren set herself apart from the Democratic field by swearing off the kind of pay-for-play fundraising that typically gives wealthy donors outsized access and influence. Front-row seats at closed-door fundraisers, one-on-one time with candidates, and private phone calls, known on campaigns as hours-long blocks of quote-unquote call time for soliciting big checks. Warren officials said she did not violate that pledge when her campaign turned to one of California's top Democratic donors, a wealthy Silicon Valley physician named Carla Jurvetson, to help pay for access to a crucial voter database earlier this spring. The next part says the so-called National Voter File, a pool of data about millions of people that presidential campaigns use as a foundation for their own private data as they identify and track support over time, is managed by the Democratic National Committee, DNC, and costs campaign a total of $175,000 according to the DNC's voter file contract. The DNC term sheet outlines 2 ways campaigns may pay for the voter file: by transferring funds directly to the DNC or raising that money to the DNC through donors. Jurvetson, who contributed about $7 million to Democratic causes, I'm not sure what that means, but Democratic causes, I guess, could be any number of things. It says during the 2018 election, gave a total of $100,000 to the DNC in April 2019 Federal Election Commission filings show. The donations, according to 2 Democratic operatives with knowledge of the agreement, helped Warren pay for the voter file. In a statement, a Warren campaign official said that the campaign herself did not make any calls to Jurvetson in order to facilitate the contribution, nor did the campaign solicit the money at a fundraising event. The official said Warren has remained consistent with the standard she set earlier this year in her pledge, not trading access for money. It says Warren is one of only 2 candidates to make small dollar fundraising a key pillar of her campaign. She mentions the pledge frequently at events on the trail and in fundraising emails. Online, she sells t-shirts that read, quote, "The best president money can't buy," end quote. The other candidate, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, has not yet purchased access to the DNC voter file, according to a senior advisor. If the campaign does buy the $170,000 product, the advisor said they plan to do so by writing a check directly to the DNC. And it's the last part here. It says apparently there's a lot of perks that go with getting that database. It says, in addition to paying $175,000, campaigns seeking access to the voter file must also agree to appear once every 3 months at DNC fundraisers, send quarterly fundraising emails on behalf of the DNC, and record promotional videos for DNC use. As part of the agreement Warren signed with the DNC to access the voter file, she is slated to appear at a major party fundraiser in San Francisco next month. At the fundraiser, according to a copy of the invitation, donors will be able to pay $10,000 to attend a private cocktail and dinner reception. A $50,000 ticket promises premium seating and photo opportunity. In her fundraising pledge, Warren states that she will continue to raise money for the Democratic Party. How convenient. Her campaign officials have also said the pledge only applies to the primary and would shift should she advance to a general election against Donald Trump. So that's something that, we talked about on the last podcast, actually, where she had a conversation with Cenk Uygur a few months back. And she said, when it comes to the general election, we're not going to, what was the term? Unilaterally disarm. She does not believe in unilateral disarmament when it comes to campaign finance as far as fundraisers and corporate donors and shit. But that's for the general. For the primary, she's against it, and oh my God, she's so principled. But when it comes around to being in the general, we have to do everything to be Donald Trump, even if that means breaking my fundraising pledge. So this fundraising pledge, it has strings attached. Not strings attached, but it has its caveats to it, essentially. But it also does have strings attached because you're forced to do all these extra little events and stuff, and you have to suck up to the DNC and do, quarterly fundraisers? No, send quarterly fundraising emails on behalf of the DNC, and then you have to appear once at DNC fundraisers. It's like, Jesus Christ, is the money that fucking good? Like, do you really love the money that much? Because, let's be real. If she's doing this, she knows that if she doesn't take... So let's say if she doesn't take this voter database, let's just say, compared to not having the voter database, which is probably bad because then you can't access the typical kind of Democratic voters are out there that you're supposed to appeal to. Apparently, you can't do that in a grassroots way. You need to have a database. But anyway... if she weren't to do this, then, she'd obviously be left out in the cold, and she would have to run everything by herself instead of getting help from the Democratic Party. And apparently, if she's not going to do all this stuff, the Democrats might just, tell her to fuck off during the general election and tell her, sorry, we can't help you because you didn't do the things that you were asked, even though you took the database, the voter database, and so you better do all these things that we ask of you, or else we're not going to help you during the general election as much as, we do for other candidates, for example. So she knows she knows how her bread is buttered, and Elizabeth Warren she's walking a fine line to make sure that she's not doing anything unethical. Apparently, but in reality, she is breaking the pledges that she claims to not, that she claims to be so serious about. But in reality, she's not really sticking to any kind of, pledge. That's just what she says. Because if you were truly sticking to that pledge, you would have stuck to it for the general election too. And she's not, because she knows that she needs to do what she can do, to make sure that, she, has the support of the Democrats and the establishment so that she can beat Trump in 2020 if she makes it to the general election, So I'm not the kind of person who gives her credit for, you have this pledge for the primary and you're not taking corporate donors during the primary, but you're, since you're, only doing it for the general election because you have to beat Trump so badly, that you're totally principled, and I'll give you a break on that. No, I'm not the kind of person that gives people like this a break. They do not deserve a break for doing some things that they honestly shouldn't be doing. So it's crazy to think like she should deserve some sort of praise. She should earn some sort of praise for this, because at the end of the day, it matters that you are sticking to a specific standard of ethical decision making and ethical actions. And in my opinion, she's not doing that. She's being an opportunist, and she's doing things to make sure she can get all the advantage she can get, while still walking that fine line of being a so-called progressive, and and also obviously being a capitalist to the bones, or whatever she said. So yeah, she's not principled. She's not a principled person. I don't see Elizabeth Warren as somebody that is going out there and doing things that, that she's sticking to her guns and making sure she's going to stand up for the regular people out there. Now maybe her policies are sticking up for regular people, but ultimately at the end of the day, if you're taking money from corporate donors and you're doing the favors of those donors out there that are giving you money in the general election, you're going to have to pay them back at some point. And just because you don't do it for the primary, but you do it for the general because you're facing Trump, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean you deserve some sort of prize, because that's just not how it works. At the end of the day, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent, like somebody like Bernie Sanders is. Bernie Sanders is consistent in not taking corporate money, no matter when, whether it's a general election or whether it's a primary, it doesn't matter to him. But apparently Elizabeth Warren feels like she needs to do this because she's that desperate to beat Trump. Apparently she doesn't care about grassroots campaigning and grassroots, on the ground, boots on the ground work. Bernie Sanders doesn't need this database because he has his database. His database is the people that him and his volunteers connect with when he goes to different states, no matter where it is, middle of the country, bigger states like California, Texas, whatever, New York, more heavily populated states. It doesn't matter whether you're there, you're in the Rust Belt, you're in the Deep South, doesn't matter. Bernie Sanders focuses on getting the people that are part of the they're part of the grassroots campaign, giving him $27 an hour per donation on average, and those are the people that he wants to deal with. He doesn't need to get a $175,000 database, voter database from the party that screwed him over in 2016. The people that he honestly shouldn't be trusting, and the people that will ultimately try and screw him over in this primary, just like they did in 2016. So if Elizabeth Warren wants to be part of that little group and she wants to be associated with that, and she's so desperate to beat Trump that she needs to get this voter database and then she needs to get bankrolled by a donor, then that's her prerogative. But that shows that she's not principled, and it shows that she doesn't really care about her so-called fundraising pledge, no matter how much her campaign or aides or spokespeople want to pretend like she is, because ultimately she's not following that pledge, and she's doing, and if she is following it, she's following it very opportunistically, and I don't like it.